Welcome, welcome. I am so deeply honored and grateful that you're here with us, Dr. Klaper. Thank you so much. It really means a lot.
Thank you for the invitation. It's a delight to be with you.
Yeah, my mom and I studied your work when we got our PhDs in holistic health and nutrition.
I'm honored to hear that. It
It's,
makes me feel wonderful.
yeah, you've done some really pioneering work, and it's important. The message that you're getting out there needs to be heard, especially from MDs.
Amen.
So thank you for showing up the way you do. Yeah, and you are such a bright, beautiful soul. It's like I was shocked by your enthusiasm to
Mm.
be so present and embrace and meet new people, and it's just a blessing. Thank you.
Well, that's the juice of life these
Yeah,
days. It's service and meeting wonderful people who have the same goals in mind as
yeah,
well.
beautiful. Thank you. So I wanted to dive deep into the plant-based world. I wanted to first explore some of the things that come up as a plant-based eater. Of course, the first question, what do you always get?
Where do you get your protein?
Right? And then go into what it really looks like when you are on an animal-based diet. And then how do people really overcome some of these things? Because they're coping mechanisms, right? And they're ingrained and right. So
Oh,
if we can go to all those places, I'd be delighted.
let's go.
Hey, all right, let's get to the elephant in the room. Where do you get your protein, Dr. Clapper?
The same place elephants get there. Really, when you think about the biggest, most powerful animals on planet Earth, elephants, buffaloes, giraffes, gorillas, they grow to thousands of pounds of mammalian muscle without ever eating cheeseburgers. And so, where are they getting their protein? Seriously, it's in the plants, of course. I've never had a gorilla in the office or a giraffe in the office. Doc, where am I protein deficient? They eat a steady stream of plant foods. And Mother Nature uses protein to make leaves and fruits and vegetation. Protein is in the plant foods. And for us Homo sapiens who have powers of discernment, we can choose those plant foods that are especially rich in protein for us. And of course, those are the beans and peas and chickpeas and lentils and nuts and seeds and whole grains. There's plenty of protein. We've done nutritional analyses, and if one eats 3 meals a day on whole plant foods, so real live rice and beans and greens and fruits and vegetables, you can't help but get 70, 80 grams of high grade protein over the course of the day. Protein deficiency just really isn't an issue. I've never written protein deficiency on a death certificate. Hamburger deficiency doesn't exist there. Now, it does obligate one to eat whole plant foods. You can't be a healthy vegan, if you will, eating the Oreo cookies and energy drinks. I mean, you've got to actually eat the whole plant foods. But if you do so, there's going to be a steady stream of very usable protein that will function very well in your body.
That's the key because I've had a few people say that they went vegan, they tried it, and then they felt depleted and they didn't have the energy, and then they had one bite of a steak, and it's like they came back to life.
Right. Yes. And again, when you have them bring in a food diary and find out what are they actually eating, it's a lot of processed food and white bread and energy drinks, and there just isn't the protein in there, as well as a lot of other nutrients that should be there that are in whole plant foods. Those soups and salads that have the fresh vegetables in it have the vitamins and the minerals that are also needed to give one energy to actually utilize the protein. So again, we are plant-eating hominids, just like our gorilla cousins. And as long as we honor that reality, those are in the rainforest all day eating leaves and fruits and vegetation, and they grow with these massive muscular bodies. We should take a lesson from Professor Gorillas there and eat a similar kind of diet.
I love it. What are the 4 foods that you say people should absolutely avoid?
Avoid, well, as it seems to be obvious there, my point of view, animal flesh in all its forms, meats just are not essential. And nowadays there's so many problems with meat-based diet that would be on top of the list. The second would be dairy products. The milk of a cow has so many problematic substances. I see so many people with asthma and allergies that as soon as they stop the dairy, ooh, they stop wheezing and their skin clears up and they breathe better. So the meat and the dairy are certainly number one and two. Oils are concentrated fat in a bottle. And, a teaspoon of olive oil on a salad isn't going to hurt anybody. But people are pouring the oils on their pastas, ooh, heart healthy Mediterranean diet, and think they're helping themselves, are really hurting the inner lining of their arteries. And so the profligate use of of refined oils would be number three. And third is the refined sugars. Sugar as a food really is a transgression of natural law there. The sweeteners are their flavoring. And as long as you're using it as such, a little dash of maple syrup in your tea, that's fine. But we were eating a candy bar, eating cookies and cake. You're eating sugar as a food, and it was never meant to be eaten that way. And when you eat a vegan donut, you're flooding your tissues with grams and grams of fructose, maltose, dextrose, and they stick to, these sugar molecules stick to proteins all over the body. They glycosylate proteins. And the proteins in your collagen and they stiffen and they can fracture. Your own body heat will oxidize these glycosylated proteins into what's called advanced glycation end products, AGEs, that are teeming with free radicals. These are molecules these are atoms that are missing an electron, and they will rip electrons off your DNA, off your cell membranes. Again, eating sugar as a food is just not conducive to health there. So get your sweetness out of dates and grapes and fruits and enjoy the sweetness that nature provides, but don't be eating concentrated sugar. So those would be the four foods that people could start avoiding, and they would gain greatly from that.
Amazing. Can we go one by one in a little bit more depth? Because I think it's important that people understand why the what actually happens in the body, and then into the dairy. You're brilliant at explaining the dairy and the effects in the body.
Sure. Well, animal flesh has some inherent problems with it, depending on what animal it comes from. But we eat a meat-heavy diet, and when you eat a steak or a couple of chicken breasts, protein comes into the body, broken down into amino acids, and those amino acids flood up into the liver. And the liver is now saturated with these building blocks of protein. And the liver thinks, building blocks, let's build something with them. In return, the liver puts out a surge of what's called insulin-like growth factor 1, IGF-1. And this is one of the most powerful growth promoting hormones in the body. And it's great if you're a young girl building your body at age 11 or 12, you want IGF-1. But if you're an adult woman with an early breast cancer, or you're a guy with a big prostate with some malignant cells in there, the last thing you want is a diet that makes you walk around high IGF-1 levels. And we're seeing increasing levels of colon cancer in young people now. And so the proliferative nature of animal protein is a problem. The meat today is adulterated. The animals, it all comes from the feedlots these days, and the cows and the pigs and the chickens are fed grains that are sprayed with herbicides and pesticides. They're given hormones as growth promoters, even antibiotics as growth promoters. They consume water that has lead and mercury and cadmium, and all these toxins accumulate in the animal's flesh. So when you bite into that burger or that chicken breast, you're getting all the concentrated toxins that that animal ate during its life. So that floods into your system as well. And nobody eats raw meat. You got to cook the burger, etc. And the very act of grilling the burger, frying the chicken, broiling the steak, again, it creates these advanced glycation end products, but they also create carcinogens. You're going to be creating these heterocyclic amines that smear on the stomach wall, setting off gastric cancers, smear on the colon wall, setting off colon cancers. To eat a diet based on animal flesh is really inviting a lot of toxic molecules into the body. The beautiful thing is you don't have to give antibiotics to broccoli. Plant-based diet, especially with organic vegetables, it's a clean food stream that not only doesn't bring in contaminants, but it's a high water content food stream. All the fruits and vegetables are full of water. And so there's every salad you eat, every bowl of vegetables to flood your tissues, not with carcinogens and these toxic proteins, but with phytonutrients, with neutralized free radicals that are antioxidants that wash contaminants out of the cells. Again, they're all Mother Nature's flashing all sorts of lights. Eat plants. We are plant-eating hominids here. And if we follow her advice, we wind up with a leaner, healthier body without a lot of disease processes going on.
Yeah, huge. But what about people that say, "Oh, I don't eat red meat. I just do the fish and the chicken."
Indeed. Well, we like to, people like to fool themselves, and I have a slide in my presentation say, welcome to camp, stop kidding yourself. The animal muscle is animal muscle,
Mm.
whether it wags a tail or moves a leg or fins, and all animal muscle, again, floods your tissues with the protein that creates the IGF-1 phenomenon. You've got to cook the chicken breast, etc. You still wind up generating these carcinogens. You still wind up ingesting all the toxins that bird was fed. And when it comes to the fish, oh my, no matter what role that fish served in human history, that boat has left the harbor. We have strip mined the ocean. We are clear cutting the ocean with these industrial 10-mile wide fishing nets that scoop up every living creature in the ocean. For every piece of wild caught fish on your plate that people think, haven't exploited the ocean. What you don't see are the dozens of sharks and rays and whales and dolphins and seabirds get caught in these nets as bykill and just they're thrown back into the ocean. And as a result, the fish populations are crashing everywhere. For a food that we don't need, we can get the omega-3s from plant-based sources. And nowadays, Mother Nature has a way of evening the score here. And again, these 10-mile wide fishing nets, they're made largely out of petroleum products. They're nylon or polyethylene. And when they get broken or snarled, these fishermen from various countries, they don't repair them. They just cut them loose and let them drift in the ocean. And they become these ghost nets that continue killing all these creatures. But it doesn't stop there because these are often in warm waters and the tropical sun beats down on these polyethylene plastic nets and the plastics start oxidizing and breaking up and the tropical waves add mechanical stresses and so the plastic nets start breaking up into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces and finally you get these little micro pieces, microplastics and the body cannot digest them. They get into all the tissues in the body, which we'll talk about in a minute, but the body can't get rid of them. And it's becoming really problematic for a couple of reasons. Certainly, if you eat fish, you're going to be ingesting this. The small little fish, the sardines and the anchovies, swallow the microplastics. They are in turn swallowed by the larger fish and then the big predator fish, the salmon and the tuna. And again, the microplastics bioconcentrate. So when you eat that piece of salmon or tuna, there's the microplastics there, there's the mercury and dioxin and pesticides that have all accumulated in the animal's flesh. Fish flesh is becoming pretty toxic for that reason. But also, finally, there's believe in karma, but as a big red light for all of our meat-eating friends, it turns out that only about half of the fish that are scooped out of the ocean actually are sold in restaurants and stores as fish, as salmon or tuna. The other half of the fish catch is ground up and added to animal food. It's added to cow feed and chicken feed and pig feed with all the microplastics. Dairy cows are now the largest ocean predators on planet Earth because they consume so much fish protein. Well, they're also consuming the microplastics. So if you're eating that burger or on a chicken breast, you're also consuming the microplastics from the fish in the ocean. And medically, it's becoming really problematic. They are now seeing that these microplastics work their way into the atherosclerotic plaques in the walls of the arteries. And once you've got microplastics in your atherosclerotic plaques, they are far more likely to set off blood clots and lead to heart attacks and strokes. And so it just compounds one problem on. Most of those problems would not affect us. When people, oh, I just eat fish, I just eat chicken. Welcome to camp. Stop kidding yourself. It's time for us to get real about our food stream and what we've done to this planet, what we're continuing to do to this planet. Adopt a plant-based diet for all sorts of reasons, not the least of which is our own individual health and the health of the animals as well.
Yeah,
And the ocean.
absolutely. Absolutely. So you have this built buildup of plastics essentially in your arteries.
Yes,
And then you've got a high-fat diet from the animal proteins, the animal
indeed,
products, right?
indeed.
Tell me a little bit about the fat. Drop in there for a minute.
Right. Of course, when you're eating meat, you're going to eat fat intentionally because that's what makes it finger looking good. That's what makes that steak so juicy, is the saturated fat. So people are eating the burgers and the chicken. Well, that saturated fat comes into the bloodstream. You eat a cheeseburger, and if an hour later I draw blood from you and into a glass tube, let it clot, put it into a centrifuge and spin it down and pull it out of the centrifuge, you can see the serum should be crystal clear yellow. It's milky white and creamy. It looks like almost glue, and that's all the fat in the blood. Blood stays fatty for a good out. And the fat we now know saturated fat is pro-inflammatory. It fans the flames of inflammation throughout the body. And we're learning how inflammation is involved in so many disease processes, everything from arthritis to depression, but also the fats have the precursors of what's called prostaglandin 2, which is another very pro-inflammatory molecule where plant foods don't have this, but the fats. One of the fats in meat is called the red. So meat is a pro-inflammatory substance, and one little piece of flesh every 2 weeks is not going to hurt. Hey, you got to get your protein. Types of younger and younger people, even in the kids, when children get killed in autopsies, they do autopsies. Starting at age 9 and 10, they've got atherosclerotic streaks in their aorta. I had a pediatrician after I gave a lecture. He lectured me and said, atherosclerosis, the biggest killer of Americans. Atherosclerosis is a pediatric disease. When he said that, it doesn't fall out of a tree on you at age 50. Those atherosclerotic plaques have been developing decade after decade, burger after buffalo wings. So the fats in animal flesh are really problematic. Plus the other toxic molecules, the pesticides, the estrogenic hormones, they're fat soluble. And so they wind up in the animal's fatty flesh. And so people are eating those juicy burgers and the finger licking good chicken breast. And they're getting, again, the concentrated all the way around. It's so out of truth, animal flesh, in this day and age especially. And the violence that's involved, the factory farming that's on these beautiful animals, and chicken and pigs. They're innocent creatures, and we put them in these dreadful factory farms. They were paying for that, or paid for it. Like with the dairy products, take another calf away from its mother.
At 3 days old.
Oh,
Like any mother, any human mother knows that that would be an unimaginable amount of pain and agony and suffering. I believe that passes on in the meat.
oh, it does. I spent my first 16 summers on my uncle's dairy farm in northern Wisconsin. And I remember as a child the most painful auditory memory I carry, locked up in the stanchion in the barn, who's just had her calf taken away from her. The calf is in the veal pen 10 yards away. And this is a mother calling for her child. And she bellows hour after hour, the most heartrending, soul-tearing cries to be united with her child. And it goes on hour after day. And I would ask my uncle, well, that's just that's what it is. She'll get over it. Uh, and now I realize what that was really about in order to keep the milk flowing. People say, when you take milk off the cow, yeah, you don't have to kill the cow. Yes, you do. First of all, there's this inherent cruelty of taking the calf away from the child, from the mother. If it's a male calf, they all get shot in the head and turned into milk-fed veal. But even if it's a female calf, they turn into four-legged milk pumps like their mother, and for a few years they get calves and milk off these creatures. But then when their milk production starts going down, they're shipped off to the slaughterhouse and they're shot in the head and the flesh is stripped from their bones. And no dairy cow dies of old age. They're all killed about age 4 or 5. But because the flesh of dairy cows, in the meat case, not terribly appetizing, they grind up. The muscle and meat of the dairy cows and sell it to the fast food industry. And so people don't realize when you go into McDonald's and order a Big Mac, go into Burger King, order a Whopper, what you're really eating is ground up old dairy cow. The dairy barn is a short stopping off place on the way to the slaughterhouse for a few years of calves and milk from the cow. But the dairy industry is a slaughter industry, just like. So what are we taking that violence into our, and there's getting to be scientific evidence that it's not just a California woo-woo idea, but
Right.
there are really molecules of microRNA and micro substances that are released from the animal slaughtered that works its way into the meat. And we are eating this, and everything changes us. So again, we got to stop kidding ourselves about the truth of eating animal products. It's time to let that recede to the dustbin of history.
It makes sense if you're eating something that was living in anxiety and depression and fear, that all of those chemicals get released into the body. You know, you get a wave of chemicals when you're scared.
Sure.
It's cortisol, it's adrenaline, right? It's
Sure. What is the adrenaline level of these animals? The cortisol levels on so many levels. It's so out of truth to inflict this on the animals. You look at all the violence in our society, you wonder.
Well, you tap on dairy as well. You give some brilliant explanation of the dairy and that effect on the body.
It's the milk of another species' mothers. You know, you never see a moose sucking off a giraffe. I mean, that was such a transgression of the natural order of things that we were sucking the milk of a cow. I said, would you put dog milk on your cereal?
Okay.
And again, it's filled with antibiotics and leukemia viruses. It's not clean stuff by a long shot. All the way around, we should do that for what it is. Now there's so many lovely plant-based milks now. Hemp milk, rice milk, oat milk, almond milk.
We're having a lot of women come in here with fibroids, and you had related it to estrogen, right?
Indeed. The cows in the dairy are now pregnant. When I was on my uncle's dairy farm in the 1950s, when a cow came, let us know she was fertile, we would lock her up in a stanchion. We'd call the man from Badger Breeders who would come, and he would ram a tube of bull semen into her uterus and squeeze. And shortly after she had been giving milk, she would dry up. She stopped giving milk. Pregnant mammals, by and large. Bossy number 16, she's not going to give milk until she has her calf in the spring. And that's just the way it was. It's biology. Well, we milked just 49 cows, and that's just, my uncle just had to put up with it. Well, today's modern dairy operations, they're milking 1,000 cows twice a day, 1,500 cows twice a day. They can't afford to have their best milkers go offline for 9 months while they're carrying their calf. To the agricultural scientists who said, no problem, we can fix that. And they genetically modified their dairy cows. And so they will give milk, even though they're pregnant with their next calf, they're still giving milk. Well, any pregnant female mammal, ask her, their body's full of estrogens, makes their breasts large, makes their uterus grow, and that's the way it should be. Well, the estrogens gets into the milk, and so they're sucking the milk off these large pregnant bovines. This is not the puny little phytoestrogens in soy. These are official mammalian estrogens. These are estrone, estradiol, estriol, pregnanediol, progesterone. These are official mammalian estrogens. And so when women especially are drinking milk or eating cheese, all these estrogens contribute to breast lumps, uterine fibroids. And for the guys, these estrogens make the prostate gland tissue becomes unstable. And the more dairy a boy eats, the higher the risk of prostate cancer when he becomes an adult man. So it's, again, so out of truth to be, this whole dairy operation and consuming that stuff. Again, you don't want to eat the milk of a pregnant. Again, there's just so many lovely plant-based yogurts and plant-based cheeses now, and there's no reason for it. The dairy industry should become an artifact.
Okay, let's switch to that side then. What does a longevity diet look like? When I know fruits and vegetables and whole plant-based foods, right? Is there anything else to add to that? Do you believe in legumes and beans and mushrooms?
Absolutely. If you've been following this, remarkable cultural phenomenon of the blue zones, where Dan Buettner went around the longest, he found 5 clusters of people around the world, in Okinawa and in Southern California, the Seventh-day Adventists, and in Korea, Greece, and in Sardinia. And a lot of 100-year-old folks. And when he looked at their diet, none of them were vegan. They all had some animal products once or twice a week. But the majority went down their gullets there They had grown out of the ground. Most of them have people grew the food themselves. They were all worked in their own gardens there. They harvested their own beans and greens. And as you mentioned, the legumes, it turns out to be the one universal food that most all of them were eating around the world were legumes. Beans were in almost all of their diets. Now, sweet potatoes played a prominent role as well. So a plant predominant diet was real key. But it's more than just a diet. These people great social support. They knew all their neighbors. They walked everywhere. They were physically active. They got a good night's sleep. There was fresh water. It's a completely healthy life web that they were in. It's not a matter of just eating beans there. But it's not complicated, and we all need some support in our community. With plant-based diet, people just keep on.
How do you feel about fasting?
Oh, I'm a big fan of fasting. For 8 years, I was on the attending staff at True North Health Center in Santa Rosa, California, an hour north of San Francisco, and it is a fasting center. I've supervised hundreds of water fasts over those 8 years, and it's just absolutely remarkable. We eat too much and too often. When you look at the human pageant over time, and you go all the way back of thousands of years back to our ancient foraging ancestors on the Serengeti Plain, surely there were frequent times where 4 or 5 days would go by before your tribe found the next berry bush with fruit on it, carcass rotting in the sun or whatever. And these enforced 5-day fasts would happen probably pretty frequently. And our bodies have adapted to that. When you stop taking in, especially carbohydrate calories, the body has, well, what are we going to do for energy? And it turns onto its own fat stores and starts burning up a fuel mixture of basically a high fat mix. And that's going to generate, as you break down your own body fats, these molecules called ketones come into the bloodstream. And ketones can be used for fuel instead of glucose, instead of sugar, but also when the blood is full of ketones, it sends chemical signals out to all the cells in the body. And the signals tell the cells no more calories are coming in. So we've got to adjust to this. So let's look at what the body is doing, what chemical and physiologic reactions that are requiring energy that we don't need to burn right now. Every calorie is precious. We don't know when the next calories are coming in. And so the body looks around, what are we doing that's using wasteful calories? Well, one thing is inflammation. If you're starving to death, the last thing you want to do is run an inflammatory reaction in your joints and your tissues. So the body during the fasting state turns down inflammation. And we would see this at True North. People would come in with rheumatoid arthritis and lupus, and we go on a water fast, and by day 5, 6, 7, it's remarkable the recession of the inflammation. I was making rounds one day on patients. One woman had severe rheumatoid arthritis, and I walked in and she had tears streaming down her cheeks. I said, "Are you okay? Are you in pain?" She said, "No, this is the first time I've been able to close my fist in 5 years. It's so wonderful to see this." And so there's this big anti-inflammatory effect. If you're starving to death, another total waste of your precious energy stores is running a cancer. Why would the body do that? And so we see consistently, especially the watery tumors, lymphomas, the leukemias, the body turns that down. We've seen lymphomas disappear during a water fast. At the cellular level, the body engages in this remarkable phenomenon called autophagy. Autophagy, auto is cell, phagos is eating. And what's happening is in the cells, in muscle cells, liver cells, etc., they're all looking, what are we going to burn for energy? What can we throw into the mitochondria, into the metabolic furnace? So the cells look for anything that they can burn, scrap proteins, oxidized sugars, etc., throw it into the metabolic furnace. And so the body cleans out on a cellular level, cleans out these waste products. And plus, it's a water fast. And so you're drinking water during. It's like taking yourself to the car wash, and you're just washing out these toxins. So so there's such remarkable healing healing process is unleashed. In a 5-day fast, we all frequently do 7-day fast. For most people, that's all you need to do. If everybody did a 5 or 7-day water fast once or twice a year, it would really help the body to clean out and rebalance. Insulin receptors open up. The diabetic people with diabetes need less insulin or can stop their insulin. So many conditions get better. And occasionally, we've got patients with really severe autoimmune disease or lupus, they do long fasts. They'll do 21-day fast, 30 days. The longest we would supervise at True North is 40-day fast. Excuse me. And it really transformed people. Great headaches go away. It's really remarkable. But you need to be someplace where there are doctors who know about fasting to supervise. Nobody should be doing that at home. Almost everybody could do a 3-day fast, weekend fast, or a 5-day fast, and it really cleans you out. But again, you want to capitalize on that newly balanced, cleaned out body. You don't want to, 5 days are over, head to McDonald's and start eating burgers and buffalo wings. So you maintain a higher level of health after that. So it has a place, no doubt.
Yeah. So we guide people through juice cleanses. We use green vegetable juices just to
Indeed.
give the body the nutrients.
Absolutely. We use juice cleanses as well. On a water fast, any medication that the people are taking are potentiated. The action of these drugs is really markedly accelerated, so that it gets dangerous. And so the rule of True North is you have to stop all medications with the exception of thyroid hormone, and even that we drop down to half dose. But if people are on high blood pressure medicine, insulin, they don't do a water fast. It's just too dangerous. It's that they can't stop, and for good medical reasons. Then these folks do a juice cleanse. And it's a high water content, but it has sugars in it. They don't go into ketones on juices. It's a wonderful cleansing. And plus, those juices, especially if they're largely green juices as opposed to fruit juices.
Yes, 100%.
It brings in these wonderful surges of antioxidants and phytonutrients. Listening to this, we're thinking about this. If you're on medicines that you can't stop, talk to your doctor. But if you're on medicines you can't stop, then talk to someone like Nikki, to Dr. Nikki, to get a juice cleanse going for yourself. It really helps.
Why, if you have high blood pressure, do you not recommend a water fast?
Well, if they're on medicine, if they are on beta blockers or ARBs, angiotensin blockers, sometimes if you stop that, blood pressure goes up higher. And now it eventually would come down, but you don't want to take a risk because it's not that during that state, it's hard on the kidneys getting pounded with that high pressure. That surge of high blood pressure, you suddenly stop their medicine. So those folks, you would do a juice cleanse and their pressure would come down if they have time after 4 or 5 days on juices. If that pressure is now in normal, then you can stop the antihypertensive medication, but you don't stop them suddenly. There's an art to supervising a fast.
Would you advise even someone obese to go through a water fast?
Absolutely. That works very well.
What if their kidneys are already stressed? I'm playing devil's advocate. What if their kidneys are stressed? They've got a thyroid condition, right? The list of conditions.
Valid concerns, absolutely. So let's take those individually here. If someone is obese but is otherwise healthy, absolutely. And weight loss will happen on a water fast, obviously, but we tell people you are not fasting to lose weight, okay? It's not for that. Yes, weight will come off. That's between you and your body. It'll determine how much healthy, and to recalibrate your eating habits there. Don't worry about the actually amount of the weight loss. So yes, these people who are otherwise healthy absolutely can do a water fast. But as we learned at True North and anyone supervising fast, I'm sure you know as well, before you and the patient agree to do a water fast, you need to draw some blood and check their creatinine levels and check their kidney function. And if someone has signs of compromised kidney function, if their creatinine level is up, if their thyroid hormone level is up, these people do not do a water fast. Then you get them on juices at that point.
But juices are safe for them.
Juices are safe. They have potassium. They have some calories in them, and again, these phytonutrients are really helpful. And the potassium in the juices will make the arteries relax and dilate a little bit, so that pressure comes down. So there's a place for juices, even if someone has medical issues. But if they have compromised kidney or liver function, it's best maybe just to get them on a whole food plant-based diet, which they should have been eating if they're in that switch to begin with.
Okay, let's switch to the coping mechanisms because I've had people go through a juice cleanse, and then afterwards it's like you turn on that ghrelin hormone.
Yep.
And the hunger hormone kicks in, and
Right.
it is a feeding frenzy, like a Shark Tank.
Yes,
Like, right?
indeed.
And it's really hard for them to just go plant-based.
It
They
is.
want all the things they used to eat. Sometimes they adjust their taste buds and it works brilliantly. Other
Exactly.
times it's a disaster afterwards.
Yes. But we have seen both of those.
Yeah.
And those folks who do well do very well,
Right.
as you mentioned, and it's a lifesaver for them. The body, especially if you've been eating the standard American diet for 40 years, 50 years, your body, there's a hormonal rhythm that's almost engraved into your various hormonal systems, including the hormones that release from the GI tract that control hunger. So what do? There's a whole art form with that. First of all, you need to talk to the person that this might happen. And there's nothing wrong with them. This is their physiology. This is what's been
Conditioned.
conditioned over the years. And you can't turn an ocean liner, on a dime there. There's a metabolic ocean liner we're trying to. And sometimes people need to do where people come back for repeated fasts. And sometimes you just have to again and again ease them through the whole process. But what about that voracious hunger that can come back? What the body's really looking for is some semblance of what they were eating before, and it involves protein, calories, and fats. That's what the body's really looking for. And understanding that you may be undoing some of the benefits that accrue during the actual fasting period. If the person needs baked potatoes with some olive oil and some bean chili, now you ease into it. You don't start to come off a water fast. There's a way to gradually, you start with a and watermelon chunks, then you gradually ease into the break fast gently. But after 4 or 5 days, they're ready to resume a normal diet. What does that, and they're voraciously hungry. It's okay if these folks just to start giving them starches and fats and protein, because that's what their body's really looking for. And we never had anybody recommend anyone go out to for Big Mac there. If you wonder, is there a place for these GLP-1 drugs that we're starting for Ozempic, etc. And the only place we would use those drugs is, again, these people who are voraciously shoving in all sorts of food after the fast. Those drugs damp that down. But whenever I give those a prescription for those medicines, I say, I'm going to give you a 6-month supply. And during these 6 months, I expect you to learn how to eat a whole food plant-based diet. So when you do stop this drug, your weight doesn't balloon up. Because people say, oh, when you stop taking these drugs, their weight goes up. Yes, if you go back and start eating cheeseburgers and buffalo wings, that's what's going to happen. But if along the way you've learned how to eat filling foods of a plant-based diet, then the calorie density is so low that when you come off the drug, start doing this.
Yeah.
But as the I Ching says, perseverance furthers. And created this metabolic situation over decades. Sometimes it may take a year or two to really, but people.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I want to switch to the final section where we just chat about the current medical system and even the holistic health practitioners that can't use the word heal. Like we're supporting the body and healing its natural ability to heal. It feels like that is, unless we have a medical degree, right, that would be against the law even. So how as health practitioners do we work around those regulations? And then I want to definitely talk about your moving medicine forward.
Sure.
Yes.
Oh my, and this is kind of new and disturbing to me to hear that you're not allowed to use the word heal. No, okay, fair enough. But let's not kid ourselves. Even our official medical doctor, we can't stop kidding ourselves too that we're not really, to give patients medication for blood pressure, we're not healing the patient, we're just controlling symptoms, controlling the physiology. It's the body that does the healing. Just want to take out the interfering forces and let the bodies natural rebalancing process happen. And it happens automatically when you stop hitting yourself in the head with a hammer. The headaches go away. And really, the art of it is to listen to the patient, find out what they're eating, how they're living their lives, hear those clankers that no wonder, he's smoking 2 bags a day, he's fighting with his wife, eating fast food. Well, that's why they're sitting in front of you, doctor. Their body that's overweight, hypertensive, diabetic, atherosclerotic, and inflamed. So help them. These dietitians that can help. It's the body that's doing the healing. And so it's an unfortunate point of contention. It's really unnecessary. All, no matter what the initials are after your name, will all help the body heal itself. And if you use an antibiotic to clear infections, still it's the body clearing. Nutrition is so important. The food stream that people are flooding their tissues with every 3-4 hours. It's either going to foster health or it's going to foster disease. And it's full of meat and cheese and oils and sugars and processed chemicals. It's going to foster disease. If it's full of high water content, whole fruits and vegetables and grains, etc., it's going to foster cellular health and balance. And that should be taught from the first year of medical school all the way through the entire curriculum. And yet, the medical schools today, nutrition is never mentioned. No one ever talks about food. It doesn't matter what they eat. They'll get a diagnosis and then get them on the right medication, and you've done your job. Or send them to the right surgeon, you've done your job. And this is the way the medical system perpetuates the cycle of disease, if you will. But why is it? One is quick and convenient. These are powerful drugs, and they can produce some immediate symptom relief. But no one's getting healthy. No one says that insulin cures diabetes. No one's saying that these hypertensive medications cure high blood pressure. It just perpetuates it. And without being too cynical, and there are people making a lot of money off the pharmaceutical industry was happy to train the medical students just to be prescribers of medication. Food, don't talk to the patient about that. It's all cultural anyway. You can't talk to them about their own diet. Yes, doctor, you need to talk about food. That's why they're sitting in front of you with this bottle. And so we've all seen that when you get folks on a truly healthy plant predominant diet, the vast majority of what goes down their throat is full plant foods, they're going to get healthy. And every medical student needs to know this. And I realized I wish someone had told me that one, most of these diseases are reversible. I wish someone had told me that high blood pressure is reversible. I wish someone had told me when I was a medical student that type 2 diabetes is reversible. I wish someone had told me that lupus is reversible diseases. They would change the course of my medical career. And that a whole food plant-based diet is the key to this reversal. That's what makes it happen. That we've changed every diagnosis I've made, every treatment plan I recommend. It's so powerful, far more than any diuretic, any antibiotic. Whole food plant-based diet actually reverses these diseases. And a few years ago, when I was seeing the power of this in my own patients, I'm thinking somebody should tell the medical students about this before pharmacosclerosis sets into their brains. They think that drugs are the only treatment. And I'm saying someone should tell the medical students that. A little voice on my shoulder says, "How about you, Doc?" And so for the last 4 years, I've been going to the nation's medical schools, go through the science behind why a plant-based diet reverses these diseases. And I'm telling you, this is not California woo stuff. This is how the body actually heals. Power you have in helping patients eat better than antibiotics. This is the most powerful therapeutic tool we'll ever realize. It reverses these diseases. You want to heal these patients or don't you? Who's going to manage their high blood pressure? Who's going to manage their diabetes? You'll leave medicine. It's just a dreadful way. They're all going to get sicker and die. I want to heal these patients and get real about why they're sitting in front of their doctor and understand the cynical professors who say, well, the curriculum is so crowded with science as well. What do you want us to drop out of the curriculum, doctor? You want us to not teach them pathology so we can get your nutrition? Nutrition is so fundamental. It needs to be woven into every class these students take. And they study anatomy in the first year, talk about the anatomy of the digestive system and how and how food's processed. Physiology, talk about the physiology of digestion, of hormones, etc. Biochemistry, talk about the biochemistry of how food is. It all comes down to nutrition. Pathology, certainly, the most of the diseases are driven by what people are eating. So in the first 2 years of basic sciences, nutrition should be woven into each of these core fields. Just kick anything out. In the last 2 years of medical school, as the student goes through the various clinical rotations, they start obstetrics. Well, good heavens, these women are overweight. They get gestational diabetes, macrosomal kids that need cesarean section from what they are eating. And then you move on to pediatrics. Good heavens, the kids are getting obese and atherosclerotic from what they are eating. Go to internal medicine. Everybody on that ward is there from what they're eating. Hypertension, renal failure, surgery, they're all there from what they're eating. The gallbladder patients, amputations from clogging. It's all, there should be every one of these clinical rotations. So when the young medical student graduates, he has an understanding of the power of nutrition to really heal these patients. And finally, in my lectures, I say I want to instill in you a new paradigm of how medicine should be practiced. When you're out on your own, in your own family practice clinic or internal medicine, don't make a big scene while you're still in med school. Don't get in arguments with your professor. You're seeing new patients. Be a good doctor. Take a medical history, do a physical exam, order your labs. But before you dismiss the patient, I'm giving you the card of Miss Jones. She's a plant strong dietitian. I want you to contact her. She's going to talk to you about what to eat. She's going to give you a handout. She's going to show you videos. She's going to take you shopping. You eat like she's telling you, and you come back and see me in a month. Yeah. Let's see if you're not leaner and healthier, and let's talk about getting you off some of these medications. That's how medicine should be practiced in the 21st century. That idea in their heads, so when they get out, it becomes, of course, doctors talking about nutrition. So it's an exciting time. So that's what our nonprofit is about, moving medicine forward, is to get this message out to the medical students. And it's the most gratifying part of my medical career. I've delivered enough babies, I've sutured enough lacerations, I've set enough fractures. The most important thing I can do is wake these students up, the best doctors they can be.
So beautiful. Such important work too. Thank you. You're literally shifting the entire industry. And starting with the students is brilliant because I don't know about the older generations that would want to change.
They're going to have to shuffle off the stage left there.
Yeah.
We want to focus on those young folks who are going to replace them. And hopefully with their awareness, everything will get better.
And they want it.
No, they are hungry for it.
Love it.
Pun intended.
Pun intended. What a beautiful place to end. Thank you, Dr. Klaper. I'm so grateful for you.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity to get this word out. You're doing blessed work here. And it's the food, it's so important when you're doing in a conscious kitchen. That food's got to be delicious. Because if it doesn't taste good, they're not going to stay with it.
Right.
Yeah, I always tell people, put the food in their mouth. Oh, if that's plant-based food, I could eat that.
Yeah.
You change their lives.
Literally what happens.
Absolutely. Yes, pun intended, I guess. Of really helping people heal in the very best way. So blessings on your work in this wonderful facility that you have here. We're in great need of it. So all the best to you.
Oh, Dr. Klaper, thank you. What a treat. So happy. Thank you guys for tuning in. See you next time.
See you next time.